Alright, hey YouTube, this is Sperry, and first off, before we even get into the video, let me just say that I believe I fixed my audio issue. You guys will have to let me know, but I am pretty sure that the video is way louder now, or sorry, the audio is way louder than it used to be, and so that should be a really nice development, and I'm hoping that now it will be a lot easier to hear my videos, and it's because I'm just running the audio through Audacity before I make my quick rant. So hopefully that will make the audio a lot more understandable in the future videos. So I'm glad I figured out a solution. So anyways, I'm here today to tell you the reasons why I believe Toontown players are bad teammates, because I think there are two main overarching reasons why this happens, and I think it's in a lot of ways very annoying, and I think in a lot of ways it's built into the way the game was designed and the way it was marketed and just the way it ended up being. And I definitely think it's unfortunate, but I don't think there's a lot that can be done. I think it's just an inherent part of the game, and we'll get into that. So, the first huge reason why Toontown players are bad teammates is because of the target age group of the game. So, the way I see it, TTR has three main people who play the game, three main groups, age groups. The first one would be late elementary to middle schoolers. These would be the new players, the ones who just discovered the game for the first time. And those players, we know that those people tend to be kind of young, not super knowledgeable about the world, kind of immature. And then we got um, aging veterans, who are mostly in their mid to late teens. That's the second group. And then you've got your older players, the mothers and the grandparents. And generally, these people tend to be, I would say, past the age of 30, would be like the third group. And that group doesn't really have as much to do with this discussion because those players tend to actually be pretty good teammates. And that doesn't mean that they're better people, it just means they tend to be better teammates in the game. So what I'm really looking at for this rant in this video is the two groups, the late elementary middle schoolers and the aging veterans. All of those players tend to be, I would say, very few of them are over the age of 20. So I would say around at least 66% of the game's player base that's dedicated is under the age of 20. And those players, because they're under the age of 20, don't have fully developed brains, which means they lack maturity and development. And additionally, they tend to be overconfident. And this is around the age, all these ages actually, where individuals try to stand out and kind of rebel against society and really try to assert themselves as individuals. And this is great. It's a necessary thing to become strong-willed. It does not translate so well to a multiplayer game that requires teamwork. So unfortunately, a lot of these players will just simply refuse to listen to advice or reasoning because they want to stand out. They want to be different. They don't trust you. They don't trust their parents. And that just reflects into the player base. And it's unfortunate, but it's just a fact. And just briefly, I also want to say that certain individuals who play this game a lot are very heavily involved on the internet. I would say no stereotype intended here, but some of the people who spend a lot of time on internet message boards don't really do much in the real world tend to have a little bit less empathy than others do as a whole. And that is certainly generalizing, but I think that plays a small part into some of the issues you see in the game. Definitely a small portion, not as big as the other ones. And additionally, there's just a lot of general selfishness and stubbornness in human nature. Nothing can be done about that, but it's accentuated by the other factors. So I just think those are some issues in the demographics that cause a lack of teamwork in the game. But a much bigger issue, far worse than anything demographically, is that I believe that the game mechanics in TTR and Toontown Online before that simply reward selfish play and reward an individualized way of looking at the game rather than a way that benefits the team. So breaking it down, one of the main things that encourages this is gag multipliers in the bosses and factories/mints. An individual is actively encouraged to train in these situations by the multipliers, do what is best for them, because they're getting extra bonus XP. If they don't have a lot of friends or a lot of individuals to train with, which lots of people don't, they are going to actively seek out an environment where they will get this bonus XP. Like, built into the game, an individual is encouraged to train for themselves rather than train for the group. like just based on the multipliers alone. And these multipliers do need to exist in the game to make it so that, high level players can get their level 7s back. It's just a side effect, an unfortunate consequence that it also encourages training for players who don't have a lot of other options because it directly encourages selfish play, and that's whatever. It needs to be in the game still. The multipliers still need to be in the game, so there's not much they can do about that. Now, additionally, there is a conflict between what is best for the individual and the team as a whole. I already kind of talked about that, but getting into some more specifics. Let's say I'm playing the game for my first time, and I have level 3 trap, and we keep luring battles in Employment because we're out of sound. It would be better for the team if I was to use my max throw or squirt and work with the team and kill the cogs faster so we get out of there. But from an individualized standpoint, it would be better for me to train my trap because the additional time that I'm costing the group by training is not significant, and the points I get for that extra time are very good for me. It just sucks for the team. So if I'm looking on my individual level, I am actually better off training in that situation. And so really what ends up happening is that training is better for the trainer. It actually is. Even time effectively wise, it is better for the trainer. It's just worse for the team as a whole because it adds time to the run. Another great example of this point. If I'm in a boss run and I suck at the game and I have a chance of dying, I individually are much better off trying to sustain myself, keep alive by spending the entire time hoarding snacks in the CEO, begging for tune-ups in the VP or CJ because I only get the reward if I live. So I'm better off increasing my chances of living, even if it slightly decreases the group's chance of winning and adds time to the run. Those things don't matter because what's best for me is not what's best for the group. And that causes an inherent conflict. Alright, so I just had to cough. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. And then finally, another point I want to make is that the entire battle system itself prioritizes individual success and reward rather than the team success and reward being what matters. So, to get a reward, the individual alone has to be the one who makes it to the end alive. Essentially, the way it works is, if I make it to the end without crashing, I get the reward. If I die for any reason, disconnect for any reason, I get no credit. So, there's no idea of teamwork in World of Warcraft when you do a raid or a dungeon. It doesn't matter if I die, as long as I help my team. It's okay, because in the end, I still get my reward. Like, legitimately. There's tons of teamwork encouraged within the actual gameplay mechanics of most MMOs, because you can die and still get a reward if you help your team make it to the end. In Toontown, you need to be individually, you have to make it to the end. It doesn't matter what your team does, you individually need to survive. So this encourages practices like greening, and it also encourages a lone wolf attitude, because really your teammates just end up being objects for you to achieve your individual goals rather than it being a team's collective goal. There is just no incentive or reward whatsoever that's even slightly meaningful to encourage you to help other players in need. Like, I have no reason other than, just being bored or, honestly just wanting to do it for fun or out of the kindness of my heart, whatever you want to say. But I'm not encouraged by the game in any way to help out low-level Toons in the VP, to help out less experienced players, to really spend the time to teach them the game, because I'm actually going to make the run slower by typing to them and explaining to them what to do instead of playing my best. There's just no incentive to actually use teamwork and help those in need aside from things that just make the run faster for everyone. So it is in small doses, but there's just no reason for me to take in lower players and teach them the ropes when I could go with the players who are already good. And basically any idea of friendship or teamwork, such as, I have a friend, Phil Memes. He does a lot of stuff with me and some of my other friends that he doesn't actually have to do because he's a nice guy. He wants to do the bosses with us, so he does that so he can fight the bosses with us. And a couple of times, right, I'll do like a middle 6 instead of a front 3 so that I can actually fight the boss with him. It goes both ways. We reciprocate that. But really, both of us are playing negative sum games because we just want to fight the bosses with each other. So really, friendship and teamwork are only present when there's genuine relationships within the game, and that can still happen. But on an overall macro level, helping others is often a personal hindrance, which means that the mechanics themselves encourage players to be selfish and to not be good teammates. And just quickly mentioning, I'm not counting the stupid Storm Stallbutt suit as an incentive to help other players. That was just a stupid suit. Nobody actually cares about that. it's almost a joke to even use that in the game. And again, people are just using them as minions to get their goal as opposed to being a genuine incentive to help other players. And I'm definitely not counting, if it's stupid just for fun tasks that give you almost no reward and nobody ever takes them. So there really are no incentives to actually help players out aside from it being out of the kindness of your heart, which I suppose is the way the real world works. But for an entire game that's designed to be, teamwork friendly, a teamwork friendly MMO, the gameplay is surprisingly selfish, even compared to other MMOs, because of the whole battle system thing I told you, compared to like MMOs like WoW and Rift, the gameplay is actually more selfish. And then finally, my biggest point that I haven't really talked about, biggest in the sense that I think it is fundamental and it kind of twists the common perception, is that teamwork in this game is mandated rather than incentivized. So, because many portions of the game require you to be with other players, this reinforces the idea that the game requires teamwork, because the game does require teamwork. What it does not do is produce good teammates. So yes, teamwork is an inherent and necessary part of the game, but because it's forced, and because there are no incentives to actually be a good teammate other than individual gain from these forced teamwork interactions, your teammates have no real incentive to be nice to you other than just trying to not be mean enough to get kicked out of the group or to get greened. Those are really your only incentives to be nice or to play with the team, or just to avoid being greened or ditched. Aside from that, there's no incentive to actually be a good person or to work with your team, and that's why there aren't good teammates in the game. Yeah, the only incentive teammates have to do what's best for the group is when their goals happen to align. And really, what this whole system ends up producing is it turns a game that's supposed to be casual and fun, where you make friends and try to help other people out and get good relationships. It turns it into a game where if you actually want any level of progression, your best option fundamentally is always going to be to go with the Toons that are the sweatiest, the most experienced, and play the game in a very grinding mechanical attitude. And it turns a game that's supposed to be more of a social MMO into this very mechanical struggle to the top, instead of what I think it was intentionally designed to be, especially at the higher levels of the game. And I really think it's on the players to try to change these fundamental rules, because you can certainly still have lots of teamwork when you play the game, but it's on the players to do it. The game provides some levels. The game certainly provides plenty of levels for collaboration and teamwork. There's no PvP, which is certainly something that makes the game a lot less toxic. The way to escape players who are being toxic is much better in this game than other games. The fact that you can just press X if anything's going wrong and leave if you got a bad group is good. But essentially, at the end of the day, there are a lot of mechanics in the game that make your teammates bad. And I think that's unfortunate. I don't know what they could really do besides completely rewriting the game to solve any of these issues. Like, I can't even think of a way they could add an incentive to provide teamwork, because making a super heavy teamwork MMO is not as easy as it looks. And I'm not trying to say the game's bad because of any of this. I'm just trying to point out these are the reasons why your teammates often suck and are often selfish and are often bad teammates. Just because of the way the game works. I guess in the same way that people are selfish in real life. That's just the way life works. I was just kind of specifying which rules and parameters cause this to happen. And so really, I'm just trying to, I guess, explain and justify and make it clear why sometimes you don't get the best teammates, and why you're going to become frustrated at times with those around you. And it's really just something more to understand than to get upset at, because that's just the way it is, and there's no reason to take it personally or get too riled up. Like you saw in that last video I made, that was me getting very riled up. It was a funny video. I uploaded it because I thought it was a funny video, not because I thought that's the way I actually think about the game or approach it. But I think it's good to just take a step back and realize that at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be as much of a grind. Like, there are certainly lots of grinding elements to MMO, but it's just not supposed to be this soulless mechanical grind. You're supposed to actually interact with your team and make relationships. And I just wanted to talk about not only why teammates are bad, but how it's really on the players to make it better. And I think I'm still on topic, but it's a bit off of my thesis, at least. So I'm planning to, I think, cut the video around here. If you have any comments on this video, any questions, I'll certainly answer them. I try to answer every question that I get as a comment on my channel, especially when it's nice and small like it is now. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll make sure that I bring you another video tomorrow. And see you guys soon. Goodbye.